Hey, what is going on, YouTube? I'm doing a car video because I accidentally came to my Muay Thai gym very early. I came to my Muay Thai gym 40 minutes early. So I decided to do a video in my car just because I had the means to. I had time, and it was something that I was kind of thinking about in my head, talking to myself out loud about while I was on the drive over here. And it's about Deiveson Figueiredo versus Rob Font, which is probably the fight I'm most excited for on UFC Fight Night Austin going down tonight, Saturday. And on this fight night card, like I said, we got Deiveson Figueiredo versus Rob Font. Figue's making his move up in weight. It's been speculated for so long because the weight cuts have been terrible. He always literally looks like TJ Dillashaw making his cut to 125 whenever he cuts to 125. And he always looks just absolutely horrible. And it started to seemingly have an effect on his performances after the last Brandon Moreno fight, which was early 2023, UFC 283 in Brazil. Goes out there, gets finished by Brandon Moreno, TKO, doctor stoppage, whatever you want to call it. And at the end of the day, he did not look impressive in that fight. He had good exchanges at some moments. There were some really good grappling exchanges by them. There was that one sequence where Brandon Moreno got pushed to the ground or shucked to the ground. I forget what it was. He swept Figueiredo. Figueiredo shot a takedown or something like that. Or Figueiredo swept Moreno. One of them shot a takedown. The other one lashed up a guillotine. It was crazy, crazy sequences. So I'm not saying he looked bad, but he just didn't look as impressive, especially on the feet. On the ground, he looked, up to par, but on the feet, he was eating a lot of shots, and he did not have a lot of a reaction. He didn't have a lot of response. He didn't have much of a kind of answer to Brandon Moreno's offensive plot in that fight. And something Brandon Moreno was doing was putting volume on him more so than ever. And in this fight, it was kind of weird because Figueiredo's always had an issue with volume, but in this fight, he had very, very little volume. And on top of that, he was missing a lot of his shots on the feet. Brandon Moreno was doing a very good job of gauging distance, and Figueiredo was doing an absolutely terrible job of trying to close the distance on the bigger fighter in Brandon Moreno. You know what I mean? And in that fight, he just really looked like a lower fight IQ fighter. I mean, he got TKO'd in the third or fourth round, and he didn't really seem to make adjustments. He didn't, start implementing some takedowns here and start trying to look for the leg kick here. And he didn't really look for that many leg kicks against Brandon Moreno in the last fight. And I just honestly see a scenario where he doesn't implement as many leg kicks in this fight, and it can kind of bite him in the butt. It can come back to bite him. You know what I mean? He didn't implement that many leg kicks like he previously did. He implemented a lot of leg kicks, especially in the third Brandon Moreno fight, which he actually took via decision. And another thing I want to get into is, Figueiredo's training camps. Deiveson Figueiredo has only been training for Brandon Moreno. He has not fought someone not named Brandon Moreno since 2021. In fact, it's been 3 years. It's been literally, I believe, over 3 years since he's fought someone not named Brandon Moreno. I believe it was Alex Perez was the last guy he fought not named Brandon Moreno. And that was back in 2020, 2021, long time ago. You know what I mean? And we're literally in 2024 now. We're almost in 2024. So, he's been using his last training partner, whatever training partner he picked out that's as close to Brandon Moreno as you're going to get in the gym, that he's been sparring with to try to get that look in, try to get that look for, oh, this is what it's going to be like when I'm fighting Brandon Moreno. Whichever training partner that was, he's been using and abusing like a fleshlight. And, I just see a situation where that has severely affected his career. And maybe it's going to work out for Brandon Moreno. Maybe if they fought 4 more times, he could win 2 more times. Who knows? Maybe he could win 3 more times. It doesn't matter. But he hasn't been getting new looks in, something that's very important for fighters to do. And I'll point to Alexander Volkanovski as an incredible example of this. Volkanovski fought Max Holloway. He fought Brian Ortega. He fought Islam Makhachev. And the biggest thing I want to get to is he went from fighting Islam Makhachev in February to in July fighting Yair Rodriguez at a different weight class. Islam Makhachev's a guy who's an incredible striker, incredible grappler, and, so is Yair Rodriguez. Yair Rodriguez is an incredible grappler, he's an incredible striker. Not to the extent of Islam Makhachev on the feet or on the ground, but he's a devastating kickboxer, devastating Muay Thai, and of course, he has insane jiu-jitsu. He's got very slick jiu-jitsu, and he's very good off his back with ground and pound. He likes to land those elbows, you know what I mean? And he went from 2 completely different stylistic matchups. He went from, a guy that's going to go out there and try to, push you back with the left hand, the Conor McGregor left hand, and he's going to try to shoot takedowns. He's going to be feinting them a lot. He's going to be grappling you, grinding you up against the fence. He's going to be strong. He's going to be stronger than anyone you've ever fought in your entire career, and he's going to have that insane cardio where he's trying to outpoint you the whole fight. Then he had to go down a weight class and fight a completely different stylistic matchup in a guy like Yair Rodriguez, who's going to try to go out there and literally abuse the body, like Neil Magny does to his 3-year-old son whenever he gets home from losing to Ian Gary. And he was literally going to go out there and try to abuse the body, land some devastating kicks, and eventually look to land head kicks because Alexander Volkanovski has a deficiency in his defense to head kicks. You know what I mean? And of course, he was able to address it by switching stances a bunch and a bunch of other things that I would love to discuss in another video. But at the end of the day, he went from 2 completely stylistic matchups, completely different. And you could kind of see how it changed him as a fighter. His grappling significantly improved, not only offensively, or not only defensively, but offensively, coming off of a training camp and fight with Islam Makhachev. Going into that fight, his grappling was always very good. But coming out of that fight, when he fought Yair Rodriguez, his wrestling, especially offensively, looked incredible. He was able to take Yair down. And of course, Yair doesn't have the best takedown defense, but from a technical standpoint, he looked so much better than he's ever looked in his entire career. And I truly believe that's a big factor, training for a guy like Islam Makhachev. You know what I mean? Excuse my coughing. And you look at a guy like Deiveson Figueiredo, who hasn't fought anyone but Brandon Moreno for the past 3 years. I believe that's going to severely affect him in this fight. Then we go to, we actually go to Rob Font, the other half of this equation. And, we take a look at Rob Font. Rob Font's an incredible fighter. And of course, people are going to clown him because he looked like the Elephant Man against Marlon Chito Vera. He was getting, lit up like a Christmas tree, whatever you want to call it. He was getting clipped up at the end of each round, except for like the first round. He was getting clipped up, nearly finished. And then he was beating him up, clipped up, nearly finished, rinse and repeat every single round from the second round onward. And of course, he lost the fight because of that. You know what I mean? But, and I know this is going to sound delusional. This is going to sound so delusional. People are going to make fun of me. People are going to say, what are you talking about? That sounds so stupid. If you take out the instance of, the one punch around, the one kick around where Rob Font got rocked and nearly finished, you take out the one kick that, Marlon Chito Vera landed on him, and you just look at the, the typical exchanges on the feet where both guys, no one's getting, like, aside, barred the, singular moments throughout the fight where Deiveson Figueiredo or Rob Font was getting rocked badly. If you just look at those moments in the fight, the average exchange, you look at the majority of the exchanges on the feet, Rob Font was lighting up Chito Vera like a Christmas tree. He was demolishing him. He put ungodly levels of volume on him, and the fight wasn't even remotely competitive in the majority of the exchanges. You look at exchange to exchange, the ratio of exchanges that Chito was winning versus Font was winning, the ratio would be pathetic. You would look at the performance on paper and go, dude, I'm not impressed with Chito. Then you look at the performance, you actually get the video, you get the picture of it, you look at Rob Font's face after the fight and everything, and honestly, it's not like Rob Font has pillow hands because he just literally slept Adrian Yanez out cold. But, I'd like to know what Siberian lab Chito Vera was made out of. I would like to know what lab created him, because not only does he have untouchable skin, he literally did more damage to Corey Sandhagen getting pinned up against the fence in like a modified half guard position where Corey Sandhagen was landing elbows and ground and pound. He did more damage to Corey Sandhagen in that position than Corey did to him. Corey looked like he just took a beating, and Chito looked like the fight hadn't even started yet. He looked like he was getting ready for a photo shoot. You know what I mean? He has untouchable skin. He didn't get a single cut in the Rob Font fight, didn't get a single cut in the Corey Sandhagen fight, and I've never even seen him rocked. I've never seen him wobble on the feet. He's eating a lot of big shots, you know what I mean? And like I said, it's not like, Rob Font has pillow hands. He literally slept Adrian Yanez out cold, and he put all the volume he possibly could on Chito Vera and didn't do an inkling of damage to him. He literally did not do an inkling of damage, even though he put incredible levels of volume on him. So, it's incredible. That's purely a situation where you have to look at it and go, that's Chito Vera. That's not a deficiency in Rob Font's game. That's just because it's Chito Vera. He's an outlier. He's, like Sergey Pavlovich eating an overhand from Tai Tuivasa in round 1. You know what I mean? That's an outlier. You can't really look at that too harshly and be like, oh, well, he has pillow hands. There's no way he beats this guy or that guy. You know what I mean? I still believe he beats the majority of those top guys. not all of them. Obviously, there's still a lot of bad matchups for a guy like Rob Font. He could get taken down, out-grappled, but there's a lot of guys in the featherweight division, I believe, not at the very top, but lower level that I believe he could take out with his boxing. You know what I mean? But, like I said, take out those instances where he gets rocked. He literally put on one of the greatest striking performances of all time. The way that he was striking, he would pop Chito Vera from range with a jab, step in, land an elbow, uppercut, come over the top of the hook, push him away, land a 1-2. You know what I mean? And he would literally rinse and repeat this for 5 straight rounds outside of him getting rocked with one shot and then, the round edge. You know what I mean? Outside of those one little moments, he was literally beating the piss out of Chito Vera without really doing any damage, if that makes sense. I can't really put it into words, and I'm not saying he would beat Chito Vera in a rematch. I would pick Chito Vera to beat him just because I think Chito's going to rock him after getting, lit up. But, he really proved how good of a striker he is in that fight, as crazy as that sounds. And I see a scenario where, Deiveson Figueiredo's not throwing as many leg kicks these days. He's seeming to slow down. He's getting up there in age, like 35. And of course, Rob Font's pretty old himself. They're about the same age, but the age is significantly showing more on Deiveson Figueiredo's side than I would say it's showing on Rob Font's side. And I can see a scenario where, he's not throwing as many leg kicks. The fight IQ is seemingly decreasing. You know what I mean? He doesn't seem to be as hungry anymore. Of course, he looks absolutely shredded. I just saw the pictures of him, weighing in or whatever, the pictures of him doing the photo shoots. He looks incredible. He looks like it doesn't look like he put on any weight. It looks like he's still shredded at 135, which means all he did was put on muscle, which is incredible. I'm sure he's going to be incredibly powerful and strong at 135, as so much so as he was at 125. But we have to look at is his style was being like Bilal Muhammad. His style, and I know people are going to say, what are you talking about? His style was being the bully. Deiveson Figueiredo was bully B. You know what I mean? He would literally march people down. I mean, go watch what he did to Joseph Benavidez in both fights. If you want to see, if you literally want to see a man have his wife watch him get cucked on camera, go watch what Deiveson Figueiredo did to Joseph Benavidez in both fights. Some of the most brutal, vicious, disgusting beatdowns I have ever seen in my entire life. These are beatdowns that just constitute going into witness protection and never showing your face in public again. You know what I mean? I felt so, I'm not even a David Benavidez fan, and it's not like I dislike the guy. I'm not saying that. I have no feelings towards the guy. Pause. But I felt so bad for anyone that counted themselves a Joseph Benavidez fan, any one of his family members, anything, because he brought his wife to that fight. He brought his family was watching the fight and everything. His fans, his coaches, his corner, everything. I feel terrible for them because that beating wasn't even like, oh well, he took a lot of damage, but he showed heart. It wasn't like a Glover Teixeira versus Jamal Hill. It was infinitely worse than that. I advise every single one of you to go watch that. Joseph Benavidez versus Deiveson Figueiredo 2 especially, terrible. I don't know how you can possibly recover from a beating like that. And he retired. He literally retired. So, you know what I mean? His style throughout his career was being the bully, marching people down, landing big shots. You know what I mean? He has incredible wins. He has a win over the current champion, Alexandre Pantoja. He has wins over Brandon Moreno. You know what I mean? He has a lot of good wins throughout his career, but his style was being the bigger man, being the guy with more power, all this kind of stuff, marching his opponent down, landing big shots, having a better chin than them, and being able to have more power than them. And if Chito Vera can't knock you out, you know what I mean? And if you're going out there and sleeping a guy like Adrian Yanez, and you have so much volume, you have proven power in your hands, you know what I mean? And you're so much faster, so many more tools. I can see maybe he implements his grappling and maybe finds submission, you know what I mean? But at the end of the day, I just see a scenario where Rob Font literally tees off on Deiveson Figueiredo for however long this fight is. What is it, 3 rounds? I see a scenario where it's very slow early. It takes a while for Rob Font to feel out the distance. It takes a while for Deiveson Figueiredo to feel out the distance. And typically, Deiveson Figueiredo is a low output fighter to begin with. So I can see a scenario where, Deiveson Figueiredo throughout the entire fight is kind of low output. And we're just kind of watching Rob Font kind of get the feel of the fight, and I believe he's just going to start teeing off on him. And honestly, as for an early prediction, well, not early, the fight's happening today, actually. As for a prediction, I'm going to go Rob Font. I think he's going to knock him out in the 3rd round. I think it's going to be not one of those flatline knockouts where he catches him with a shot, puts him out like Jacare Souza did to Chris Weidman. It's not going to be like that. It's going to be more like he just melts him with shots, or, ripping to the body, ripping to the face, and just absolutely demolishes him. I think it's going to be very similar to, I'm trying to think of something, man. I'm trying to think of a perfect example. I often find myself, I get caught in these situations where I'm trying to find the perfect example when there's a million examples out there. But I mean, you guys know what I mean. I think he's just going to get swarmed badly, and he's just going to get TKO'd with an insane amount of shots. I think he's going to get TKO with an insane amount of ground and pound, an insane amount of shots. He's going to get dropped in this fight. I don't believe he's going to go out cold at any moment, but I believe he's just going to melt and wither after, 3 rounds of an ass whooping, as Jamal Hill would call it. But let me know what you guys think down below in the comments. Don't forget to leave a like, subscribe. Don't forget to turn on notifications so you do not miss another upload. And I will see you guys in the next one. Thank you so much for watching my car video. Peace.